Good afternoon, y'all.
Hello.
Hi, Eric.
Hey, Jim, how you doing?
All right, doing good. It's getting close to time here. We still got people coming on. That's good. Can we go ahead and we'll go ahead and get started, I guess, Lori, with some introductions.
Yes, sounds perfect.
You wanna-
Hello, everyone. My name is Lori Palayo with JMT. Just to let everyone know, this meeting is being recorded, and if you are not speaking, please mute your mics. So Bob Esposito,
Yes, here.
what's your organization?
Fernando Citrus MPO.
Thank you. Brenton Mosher,
Brenton Mosier with USF Qatar.
Christopher Ball,
Lieutenant Chris Ball with the Citrus County Sheriff's Office Traffic.
Ernie Lane, Ernie Lane is on the call from Hernando County. Eric Henry,
Hey y'all, good afternoon. Eric Henry with FDOT District 7 Traffic Safety.
Jim Hartwell,
Good afternoon, Jim Hartwell, Law Enforcement Liaison with Element Engineering.
Jim McLean,
Jim McLean, citizen, Citrus County.
Matthew Belmonte,
Good afternoon, Matt Belmonte with Gresham Smith Engineering.
Jim Reiser,
Good afternoon, everybody. Jim Reiser, Florida Law Enforcement Liaison Program.
Sergeant Samantha Gigante,
Hello, I'm Samantha Gigante. I'm with the Hernando County Sheriff's Office Traffic Division.
is there anyone else on the call that I have missed? Jim, I believe that's everybody.
I think so. I haven't seen anybody else pop up yet. All right. Thank you very much, Lori. Shall we review and approve the 2025 minutes, January? Like entertain a motion that we approve those January 2025 minutes. Do I hear a motion?
Lieutenant Ball, motion to approve.
Thank you. Thank you, Lieutenant. Second, please.
Bob Esposito, second.
Bob, second. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. We'll move on. Lori. Old business, review the problem sheets. First one is the Mariner Boulevard. We have Sergeant Andrews was in charge of that one, and I think Eric had hopefully have some information for us this meeting.
Yeah, we did definitely receive the finalized report. It's just awaiting the final sign off from some of the folks in our office. They're just completing one final review before it's signed and sealed, and they're hoping to have that completed this week. So hopefully at our next meeting, for certain, we'll be able to provide some information about what the findings were out of that and what recommendations there were and whether we are proceeding with any of them.
Okay, good, thank you. Number two, we have the US 41 and Middle School Road. I think there's any updates on that. I think we're going to do some more studies, traffic studies, but I'm not sure that's taking place yet. Eric, have any updates on that one?
I do not. I have not heard from Mike. I know he was going to reach out to some folks about that, but I have not heard anything from him.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. I forgot my note on that one. Okay. Yeah. All right, we'll wait. See what we can come up with that next time. Ernie, it's good to have you back. And do you have any updates on the Good Neighbor Trail down there? If anybody's Duke's fixing it?
No. Oh, this is Ernie, and no, I don't have any updates on that. I keep asking questions in the back as when this might be happening, so.
All right. I haven't been down that way in a while, so maybe I'll get down there one of these days and check it out, see what it looks like. The next one we have is on the long-term list again is the Powell Road at Suncoast Trail. And we were talking about taking that one off the list this time if there's no further updates. Does anybody have any information on that one?
I did have the citizen who this originally came from reached out to me again just to check on the status, and I let him know that the funding wasn't available this time around, and he seemed cool, but it sounds like he's probably gonna maybe make an appearance at a county commissioners meeting coming up. So
Okay.
just a heads up.
Okay, good. Well,
Should we leave it?
I'm sorry.
Should we leave this on the problem locations list, or do you think it's good for removal?
I would say if it sounds like Ernie, if you don't think that there's gonna be any movement on it on your side as things stand now, we're probably okay to take it off.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to go anywhere currently, so.
Okay. We'll entertain it again whenever he gets some information from the council, city or county people, council, perhaps. All right, thank you very much. Number 3 is the Mariner Boulevard and North Cliffs Boulevard. We had some information on that. I think that was a striping issue or something. I thought it was going to be done this time.
Done on that one.
I'm sorry, Ernie, I missed that.
This, we got with ACA again, who's a striping contractor. They have problems for the last month or so with personnel that we told them it's not our issue. It's, we want it done. I'll get with Bland here the next day or so to see where we're at on the list on that, and I'll send you an email out, Lori.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Do we have anything else on the long-term list, Lori? No? All right. Looks like we're all set with those things. Hopefully we'll get some of them straightened out. All right. The calendar updates and activity reports. Anybody have any calendar updates, what we've got going on and have gone on?
I have just a couple of quick things I can mention, I guess. I think everybody should have gotten an email about this previously, but just in case you missed it, the Safe Mobility for Life Coalition, which is our coalition specifically targeting aging road users, but also just kind of general mobility through all ages of driving. They are holding a Safe Walking for Life training, which kind of focuses on providing you with the information and skills on how to educate aging road users on their transportation options as far as walking goes and the benefits and risks associated with that. I think you get a certification at the end of it. It's about an hour, I want to say. But again, just keep an eye out, or if you're interested in that, look back to your emails for the email I sent out about that. And then the only other thing I have is that we're looking at next month, early next month, coming out to the Citrus Kids Triathlon on the 8th to see about doing some outreach there. Not sure if anyone's been to that event previously. I don't think we have, so not 100% sure what to expect, but we're hoping to be there.
All right. Didn't know we had one coming up. For the kids up here. That's good. You know where that's going to be, out at the beach or something, or where's that held?
I'm not sure. I didn't
both.
have any info about it in our tracking sheet other than just that it was on there. I can look it up. Let me see. Where the hell am I? Yeah, March 8th. It just says Crystal River, somewhere in Crystal River.
Crystal River, okay. Probably put on by DRC Sports.
Oh, there it is. Bicentennial Park.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you. Any other announcements, calendar updates, activities that are going on?
Yes, Jim Reiser from the Florida LAL program. I'll hit on a couple things for everybody, especially for the law enforcement in the room. So the grant applications for fiscal year 26 for the safety grants are currently being accepted through the end of the month. So I think both Citrus and Hernando have applied in years past, and I'm sure are reapplying now. Just make sure that your grant people have that submitted by the end of the month. And if you have any issues, please reach out to me. And on the subject of grants, there was a lot of question relating on the law enforcement side, and I'm sure on the infrastructure side, that everything going on in DC, that things were being stopped. That's not true. You are to continue on your projects that you currently have in place and apply for continuation or new projects next year. If there's an issue going forward this year with the funding for fiscal year 26, your project managers up at FDOT and Tallahassee will reach out to you. But right now, everything's status quo. Submit your applications and continue working on your projects and your monthly submissions as per your contracts. And then the law enforcement liaison program will be doing the law enforcement safety challenge. I'll be reaching out to all the contacts on my email list to submit that reporting that covers all traffic safety activities in 2024, including if it was minimal activity, still submit a report because it gets you familiarity with that program And if you decide to aggressively participate in the following year, you know what's going to be expected. But at that time, unless there's any questions, I'll yield back.
Do we have any questions for Jim? No. Hearing none, let's move on. Any other calendar updates or activity reports from any other members? Hearing.
It is bike months next month. We do have events, but we haven't gotten anything going on in Hernando Citrus. So if you know of anything, give me a shout.
Okay. In March. Where's the activities down in Hillsborough County, Brenton?
Yes, we have well, there's one on the 1st in Pinellas County, their annual Bike Your City month. They do a different city in Pinellas each year. So this year's going to be Pinellas Park. And then Friday, March 7th is Bike with the Temple Terrace Mayor. And then Thursday, March 13th is Bike with the Bike to Work Day with Mayor Castor in the city of Tampa.
Okay. Yeah, get some mayors on bicycles. That's good. All right, thank you. Any other activities, reports, or
Hey,
calendar?
Jim
updates?
Reiser, real quick. I got a real quick question for Brenton, if we got a second. With the ELE program, are they doing any? I haven't heard of any other big enforcement actions coming to the end, because that ends in March, the end of March. So,
right.
Is there anything coming up with another US 19 op or something that's going to go from Pinellas County up to Citrus, or is everything?
I have not heard anything yet. I can ask George. I know he's stepping a little bit back from that program part-time, but I will see if they have anything else planned. But yeah, we are getting to the end, and I do know that we're still trying to hit all the schools too before the program ends.
Yeah, I just hadn't heard any updates. I was wondering if something was on the calendar coming up for that. If not, the agencies just do their own operations. I appreciate you clarifying that.
Good. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Brenton. All right, Lori, would you like to do the fatal crash map?
Sure. Pushing down a little bit. Okay. So starting with Citrus County, from January 1st to November 29th of 2024, there were 29 fatal crashes. And at the last CTST from January 1st to October 12th of 2024, there were 22 fatal crashes. So there's been 7 new additions to the fatal crash map, including 2 left turns, 2 other, and 3 run off the road fatal crashes. So for the left turn fatal crashes, the 2 new ones, the first one, report number 264-20261, occurred on November 4th at 11:55 a.m. on US 19 and Dunellen Road at the 4-way intersection in day, clear, and dry conditions. The second left turn fatal crash was report number 263-86072 on November 14th at 5:50 in the morning on North Lecanto Highway and West Hampshire Boulevard at the T intersection in day, clear, and dry conditions. For the 2 other fatal crashes, the first one, 263-86820, occurred on October 10th at 1:29 a.m. on East Parsons Point Road in North Cumberland Point, not at the intersection in dark, not lighted, severe crosswinds, and wet conditions. The harmful event was a falling object, and it was single vehicle related. The second other fatal crash, report number 263-12240, occurred on October 19th at 10:48 a.m. on West Dunellen Road and North Rock Avenue, none at the intersection in day, clear, and dry conditions. The first run off the road fatal crash, report number 264-24724, occurred on October 19th at 2:08 a.m. on Lecanto Highway and Fennessy Lane, not at the intersection in dark lighted, clear, dry conditions, and the driver hit a tree, and the activity area was on was doing work on shoulder or median. The second run off the road was 264-5786 on October 22nd at 8:18 p.m. on Poppy Street in Torina Urbanus Court at the T intersection in dark lighted, clear, dry conditions. The driver also hit a tree. The third run off the road fatal crash, report number 26330686, occurred on October 30th at 7:24 a.m. on US 19 and Northeast 2nd Avenue, not at the intersection, in dawn clear and dry conditions, and the driver hit a utility pole. So there were 29 fatal crashes through November 29th, and same period in 2023, there were 21 fatal crashes. So Citrus County is up by 8 fatal crashes, same time period. And you could also see that motorcycle is the second highest mode of travel for fatality type. For Hernando County, from January 1st to November 29th, there were 34 fatal crashes. And at the last CTST to October 12th, there were 30 fatal crashes. So there's been 4 new fatal crashes, including 2 rollover, 1 off-road, and 1 rear end. The rollover fatal crash, report number 263-97035, occurred on October 19th at 10 p.m. on State Road 589 southbound and Ponce de Leon Boulevard. It was on a turnpike toll road, not at the intersection, in dark lighted clear dry conditions, and the rollover occurred on the shoulder. The second rollover fatal crash was 263-79235 on November 16th at 6:37 p.m. on County Road 574 and Spring Parkway, not at the intersection, in dark, not lighted, clear dry conditions. The off-road fatal crash, report number 264-20541, occurred on November 4th at 6:40 p.m. on 7279 Greenleaf Lane and Arrowhead Avenue at the T intersection in dark, not lighted, clear dry conditions, and they hit a traffic support sign. The rear end fatal crash, report number 264-15625, occurred on October 28th at 2:20 p.m. on Cortez Boulevard and Main Street at the 4-way intersection in day cloudy dry conditions. So again, there are 34 fatal crashes through November 29th. In the same period in 2023, there were 40. So Hernando County is actually down by 6 fatal crashes, same period. And again, Hernando County is also the second highest mode of travel fatal crash type was motorcycle related. And that is everything I have. Seems like I'm seeing a lot of single vehicle run off the road crashes recently. That's everything.
Thank you, Lori. Do we have any questions about those, any fatal accidents that we have?
This is Bob Esposito. I have
Yes,
a
Bob.
few comments. Commissioner John Alaco reached out to our office, and we're in the process of putting some information together. I don't have everything I need yet because he's a little bit frustrated with what's going on. And, you know, the top 3 issues, according to Signal 4 Analytics, for serious accidents and deaths are aging road users, lane departures, and intersections. You know, some of the research we've done, you know, you can put maybe flashing beacons coming up to intersections to give people an extra warning. Really don't know how you stop lane departures. Seems to me lane departures ought to be lumped in with distracted driving, unless it's a medical event that I would understand. And aging road users. And I'm just going to say it out loud. We have to be realistic. Look, I'm almost 58 years old, but at some point we need to start start having the older population have to start taking some tests. Whether it's every 2, 3, or 4 years. I'll give you an example. My grandmother's long since been dead, but at age 90, she got a 6-year renewal on her license, sight unseen. The woman could barely walk. I'm just throwing out there because I'm passionate. I mean, we can do all kinds of safety measures, but unless a couple of things really start occurring, and that's, I think, the legislature needs to start passing laws, which I know they're reluctant to, and I know I'm being recorded because old people vote. And this is not attack at anybody. I'm going to be at that point soon. I normally wouldn't have said that, but as my dad says, the older you get, the quicker it goes. Time goes. And I just think that there another research thing, and I'm not pointing any fingers. I know we have law enforcement on the phone or on the call, but one of the things that needs to be done is stricter enforcement of the rules of the road. That's just basic research that we've done. I'm just throwing it out there because I know it's the state or the feds have Vision Zero, which, as I said to my former boss, Secretary David Gwynn, I said, that's just not realistic. I mean, not anytime soon is it realistic that no one's going to die on the roads, but there's ways we can mitigate it, but there's only so much, in my humble opinion, engineering can do. I'm off my soapbox. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, you got some good points there. But how do we address them? That's the key. Enforcement's kind of difficult. We don't have enough officers out there at the present time anyway.
I know this is like an engineering measure, but I think Hernando County has been doing this safety edge tool for run off the road crashes to help like get users back on the road quicker or easier, I should say. There's like a 30-degree cutoff or so that's something that I know helps out a little bit with some of these crash types.
This is a confluence of events. This is increasing population, more traffic volumes. The roadway simply, especially in the Tampa Bay area where I retired from out of the Tampa Police Department, just can't. There's no way to expand the right of ways, to add lanes. And then we have, and I'm sorry, it's Jim Reiser from the Law Enforcement Liaison Program. Through 2020 and COVID, enforcement was greatly impacted by personnel issues in all law enforcement. There's retirements going on in the newer generation. Me being a traffic supervisor, trying to motivate the younger generation to go out and do enforcement. That is slowly coming back on that side through programs like mine, the Law Enforcement Liaison Program, the ELE program that District 7 implemented that helps get the equipment in the officers' hands. But we have some real big challenges in this state if we keep getting the population growing. It's just the fact of life. We're the third largest state by population. So really, it's shocking that we have as many fatalities as we do, but third largest state by population, again, that's going to be an issue. And so hopefully, we'll see a point where, and it's interesting. You brought up Vision Zero a minute ago, and, I remember going to a focus group on Vision Zero, and the thing that struck me most was the statement was made by, I forgot who the gentleman was, but he's been reviewing these Vision Zero programs throughout the country and said that the Tampa Bay area is billions and billions of dollars in years, multiple decades out before, they'll be able to get the infrastructure that everybody wants. And I'm sure everybody that works at the planning side knows that, the engineering side knows that, and especially the law enforcement, because we see it on the street every day, what the problems are out there. So I think it was refreshing to have somebody come out and say that openly, the challenges we're facing, because I think that's what's lacking in these groups is the honest perspective of what is actually going on out there. So I appreciate your comments, sir. That was great.
Thank you, Jim, for your comments. Bob as well.
You're welcome. There was something I was just going to add to it, but my age is getting in the way and it already flew away. Sorry.
That's why I got to keep a pencil and paper handy, Bob.
I understand.
All right. Well, thank you. Any other comments about the fatal crash maps or what we can do to improve things? Help us, some of us with
Sergeant Giganti here. I think I got to agree that the influx in the population plays a very strong part of it. We've just ramped up some enforcement in our area in Hernando County, and we've been very vocal about it through social media and Facebook. And we've got some positive feedback from the community. There's just some issues that we can't enforce our way out of. Once you hit up an area and you focus on an area for a little bit of time, and then you got up for another problem area where then we focus on, and then you leave that one area, and then people start acting a fool again. That's the issue. That's always the issue. It's always going to be the issue as far as law enforcement goes. But I was just in a meeting with Commissioner Alaco a couple weeks ago with the sheriff, and he brought up some major intersections that were a concern to him. Now, from Signal 4 Analytics, they weren't very high on the accident radar, but I'll give you an example. In the area of Elgin and Powell Road, that's an influx of people there, and I'm surprised we don't have a lot of accidents there. For somebody who drives that every day, at 5 o'clock rush hour, the traffic is out of control. I saw 3 people run the red light on a U-turn just because they were in a rush. Obviously, I couldn't do anything about it because I was in my personal vehicle. If I had been there, I'm sure that wouldn't have happened. But you've got these 2 turn lanes, and then you've got 1 lane going straight, and then you have a very short right turn lane, and all these cars trying to figure out get in the right lane to figure out where they're going to go, and then they're going to rush, and traffic gets backed up. So I think that the influx in population does contribute a large part of it, and the enforcement can only go so far.
And this is Jim Reiser again. If I can beat a dead horse a little more, yes. I mean, as it would go, just I'll give an interesting political perspective of what's going on. So Manatee County had, the school zone cameras, they were implemented down there. They got a tremendous amount of pushback from the public, for the county commission. They are actually, so the way the state law is written on the school zone cameras is that anytime school's in session, they can be on. It doesn't have to be only the time when the flashers are activated. It's anytime that school's in session. I believe because of the public pushback, they are looking to go to only when the flashers are activated. That is going to limit possibly the effectiveness of those cameras. I still think it's going to make a big difference, especially during those times. But what it is it's 10 miles an hour or over the limit. It issues a ticket, anytime the school's in session. So they implemented it, but yet they're looking to walk back some of these initiatives. So not only do we have infrastructure and engineering issues where the engineers are out there trying to figure out how can we fix this, law enforcement, how are we going to get the people on the street, but we also have the political issues that come up from time to time. These forums are good because it lets everybody get their ideas out there, but just make you aware that sometimes good ideas don't pan out like we think. So we'll just have to wait and see how the rest of the school zone cameras around the state get implemented and what the public perception is on those.
This is Bob Esposito again. I actually wrote a few things down per Jim's suggestion. I think one thing we as organizations need to push is we need to have hands-free in this state on your phone. I mean, to me, from my understanding, it's only if I'm driving and texting. Well, how do you as law enforcement know whether I'm texting, doing something with my GPS? If it's hands-free, that should be a ticket. And I hear what you're saying, pushback down in Sarasota County. Well, it's the old adage, if you're not breaking the law, you're not going to get a ticket. And I actually just had a neighbor of mine, I live in Inverness, that was, I think, over in Leesburg. He got a speeding ticket from a camera. Now, it's non-pointable offense because it's kind of goes with the owner of the vehicle, I guess. It was non-pointable, but he still got a ticket for going 11 miles over. And I understand law enforcement's thinly staffed, but I will go back to the old adage: if you gave out 2 tickets every 60 minutes at 150 to 175 a pop, it probably would cover the cost of law enforcement. And going back to what one of the other law enforcement officers said, or somebody said about Commissioner Alaco and the locations, that's we would concur with that. Some of the locations he gave us at our board meeting last week, they didn't show as real hot spots on Signal 4 Analytics. However, if you live in the area or you frequent the area and you see a fender bender, it's going to seem like a hot spot. And then I actually had coffee with Citrus County Administrator Steve Howard a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that Citrus County has is an inordinate amount of lanes. He told me they have, I think, over 2,000 lane miles that the county controls for the county. That's a ton of lane miles. And I get it, it's tough to enforce. But again, I think things that we need to think about, if you happen to drive off of the road and hit a tree, you were either distracted, impaired, or had a medical event. Those are, I understand there's mechanisms out there, but they're very tough to monitor or prevent. And that's all I'm getting at is somehow we have to push. To heck if you get pressure from your constituents, you're trying to save lives, especially through school zones. I mean, we all have to look back. Driving's a privilege. It's not a right. And the minute you're on your cell phone, running a red light and T-boning me, you've affected me now. And I think those are things that these organizations need to get vocal about, really push the legislature to move it to hands-free so law enforcement can actually issue tickets for somebody who's looking at their phone and not through the windshield. That's just that's just where I'm coming from. Trust me. I mean, people look at me like, how's the MPO going to fix these accidents? Well, I need help. I need help from the legislature, and I need help from law enforcement. I mean, I've said it before, and I'll say one last thing. I was fortunate enough to spend 3 weeks in Europe, in Luxembourg, when I was 15, and I was proud of having my restricted driver's license. And my buddy, whose family was from there and moved back, his dad basically said, Bobby, in Europe, most people fail multiple times before they get their driver's license because they want you to actually know how to drive a car. In the United States, you fog a mirror, you get a driver's license. I mean, that's almost the reality of it. So it's going to have to be a multi-pronged approach. And it's really got to go with driver behavior modification, enforcement, and additional rules. Just the way I see it.
Probably have to take some of that through the Congress, state government to get some of those things passed. I see we have a hand up with Jim Hartwell there. Jim?
Yes. My background, I retired out of law enforcement, almost 30 years of law enforcement in the city of Largo and Pinellas. And half of my time was in the traffic unit and doing crash reconstruction. And we definitely had our share in our city being centrally located. And I would have to say that I think, unfortunately, we become a society that dying in a traffic crash has become an accepted way to die with the majority of the population. Example, about 100 people a day across the country die in a car crash. If you had a plane crash today with 100 people passing away, big news, national news. If tomorrow another plane crashed and 100 people more died, airlines would probably start to be grounded. By the third day, the planes would be grounded. However, nationwide, it's the same amount of people. It's just spread out across all of the country. Talking about law enforcement, city surveys, our citizen surveys that we used to do all the time, the number one complaint was traffic. However, the first thing to be cut when staffing becomes short is traffic. So it's a double-edged sword when it comes to bosses and chiefs and sheriffs trying to mitigate what they're going to do with their staffing because they want to make sure crime is low, but yet they have all of these traffic complaints. So I don't know how to impress that, your citizenry wants traffic to be taken care of, but you can't cut traffic when your budget gets tight. And then the first people that complain that traffic is their number one problem, as soon as we've had it many times, four-way stop somewhere in some neighborhood, and the complainant is the first person to get the first ticket after they complain to the city of a big problem. So, and now all of a sudden they don't want traffic anymore because they got the ticket. So that's my soapbox.
That's
No,
some good
Bob, Jim
points.
Reiser
Thank
again.
you, Jim.
I agree with all of Bob's points. I mean, I think he makes some great points, you know, coming from law enforcement. And I'll tell you right now, it's like, you know, we want to do the enforcement, but there is a problem with some of the laws out there. You know, I think if you ask any law enforcement officer, honestly, when it comes to the hands-free, there absolutely needs to be some changes where it is hands-free because, you know, unless, you know, I was a motor officer, so unless you're on a bike, I mean, you can't see what people are doing on that. You know, the motor officers have a little more chance to see what's going on because just the vantage point's completely different. But, you know, an officer in a car is tough to do. And I know all the coalitions have posted concerns, trying to get some legislative things passed. And it is really, you know, it's tough to do. And it's almost, some of the bills are great, some of the suggestions are great, but when it gets to the legislature, they just die on the floor. And it could be because of personal preferences by the people that are in elected positions. I'm not exactly sure. So, you know, it's definitely a tall hill to climb, but I would recommend you guys get involved with your coalitions too, because they do have legislative bodies or a legislative arm that can try and push changes through to make a difference in the law. And then the courts, we have drivers out there that should not be licensed, but there's some counties, they have amnesty for traffic offenses. They'll go ahead and, you know, reduce fine amounts and they'll offer driver improvement schools. But I think that needs to be tightened up too. If you're a poor driver and have been for 30 years, we had a fatality in Tampa when I was there that, you know, very prominent citizen, you know, well-respected person in the medical community. But, you know, when you're cited for 30 over the speed limit several times and then you end up, you know, causing a serious crash, you know, maybe that needs to be looked at by the courts. But that's something that, you know, there's a like I said, there's a bunch of events here, and I see the lieutenant from Citrus has his hand up, so I'll yield at this time.
Yeah, you know, I just got back into the traffic side of things. It's my second week over the traffic unit again. But I know that the Florida Sheriff's Association is working on sponsoring a bill that talks about hands-free. I think it's coming down the pike eventually, if not this year, in the years to come. But I foresee that actually passing and being an eventuality. We actually have the distracted driving grant through FDOT this year, and it has posed some difficulty in the enforcement side of it. We actually have to put two people in a vehicle, one as a spotter and the other one, of course, driving in order to be able to do that. So there's some significant difficulties in the enforcement side of the distracted driving stuff, just because of being able to witness that. And you got to be able to, it's got to be really clear in the sense that they're not, obviously the distracted driving, everybody thinks of texting, but if they're answering a phone call and or placing a phone call, you know, those things don't show up. And a lot of times when you're looking at those things, you're at a stoplight and you know, your stop, which also does not qualify. So definitely some things to overcome in trying to enforce those distracted driving.
Absolutely. And thank you for the comments, everybody. Good comments, good discussion on that project. All right. Any other comments on that? All right. Hearing none. Let's go to safe routes to school. I have nothing new on my end. I don't know if anybody else has anything on that or not. No. Hearing none. How about the HSIP? Lori, do you have anything on that? Or Eric?
I can add, we are currently in the process of reviewing requests from Hernando County for some LED stop signs. We're hoping to push that through rather quickly because I understand they've had some issues with some of their existing signage being stolen or removed. So we're working through that presently.
Very good, thank you. Any other updates? Hearing none, we'll move to the new business. Any new problem areas that we're having? I know we have an issue down at 44 and where 44 turns to the east off of 41 in Highlands down in downtown Inverness. It's got a lot of lanes blocked there because of the constructions going on. And the traffic, left turn traffic off 44 to go east is lined up with probably 30 to 40 cars. But that's going to probably remain that way until we get that construction completed in another probably a year. So they're out there repaving that section of the road too, 44 from the river into towards Inverness. That's not creating too much of a problem. That's on the eastbound side or the westbound side lanes right now. That's all that I have present time on that subject. Anybody else have any new business? I don't know that we need to put that on. Just need to make everybody aware of it, that we've got a problem down there. Construction seems to be moving on 41 North pretty well. We had talked about last month about signage up there, but Mike didn't get back with us on that. There was supposed to be changes some signage for the school zone up there. I haven't been through that area lately, so I don't know if they've changed them or not. Anybody had any information about that? Lieutenant Ball, did you ever hear anything about that?
Actually, me and Mike had a meeting with the representative from the construction company, and we went over some of the questions out there that we had about, what's the signage going to look like. Heading southbound, there was no signage. They actually got a deployable trailer for the school zone, and I guess right around where that area is, before they finished completing the project out there, they're going to put up a school zone sign. However, it's going to be a advisory cautionary, which is like the yellow black one. So I'm definitely going to be looking to change that to a permanent sign, and it's actually going to be 35 instead of 25 through there, which is, it was 25 prior to the construction, and I guess they changed the speed limit coming southbound from the bridge down into where the school zone is, and that caused the actual speed limit in that area to go up to 35 from 25. So definitely some things we're going to have to work on when it comes to that. We have a meeting on the 18th again with the contractor out there, and we're just going to stay up to speed on things. The biggest thing is, when is the center median area going to be completed, and because that's really going to change the dynamic during the school zone and the crossing guard. And we're already adding another crossing guard out there because it's going to be a 2-person post after that happens. So they're in the process of doing that. And that's about all I got.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much, Lieutenant. I was wondering how that was going to work out there. Do we have any other information about that subject or anything else under new business? Hearing none. Let's move to open forum and announcements. Does anybody have any open forums and announcements? Okay, I do have one, or actually I got two. USA Today, which is a publication, I guess, a newspaper of some sort, they nominated the Withlacoochee State Trail as a top 10 trail in the United States. And we're kind of pleased with that. being part work down there on occasion. And you can vote on it starting March 10th through April 7th, that you agree with their opinion that the Withlacoochee State Trail is a top 10 trail in the United States. So that's a bonus and factor to our trail system here in this 3 counties, Hernando, Pasco, and Citrus counties. Also, I had last night at a meeting, we had a trail meeting, and the subject was brought up: has any officers in well, any of them that you know of in all the counties that we have they ever ticketed any of the kids under 16 for riding bicycles without helmets?
I'll weigh in on this one. You know, our trail, Withlacoochee, is a state trail, and that falls under the jurisdiction of the FWC. So this came up several years ago about us, you know, whether the sheriff's office is going to be able to do any enforcement out there when it comes to violations on the trail for bikes and e-bikes and so on. It was mainly centered around the e-bike violations, the speed and what have you. So I know that, you know, we have a hard enough time doing enforcement out on the roadways. So the trail is definitely one of the ones that's going to get neglected over time. On top of that, especially with FWC kind of having purview over that area because it's considered a state trail. So I don't know of any enforcement done out there. I've not seen it, and I wouldn't expect, you know, a whole lot going on, at least right now. If you did want enforcement, I would contact FWC to really start working on that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's kind of my comments too. As the officers are too busy to be writing tickets to some kid. Then you may have a warning or something if you just happen to see one going by and you're on the corner there directing traffic or something like that. But we do have FWC out there trying to catch some people. We've got some people with motorized, almost like motorcycles, running up and down the trail, electric units, and had one going about 45 miles an hour recently, and they're trying to catch him, but so far they haven't been able to. But it's nuts out there with electric bikes at the present time till we get a handle on it. All right. Any other comments about that subject? All right, hearing none, we'll open it up for other persons to have announcements and open forum. Thank you.
This is Bob Esposito. I'll go. I'll try to keep it brief. Commissioner Rebecca Bays and I had a phone call with Senator Nick DeSigle. Let me back up. A couple of years ago, I reached out to the former state secretary of FDOT, Anand Prasad, how we can bring extra money for road constructions into our Hernando and Citrus counties. And what he told me then is that this current session, they're hoping to have a lot of what they call rural arterial money. The current Senate President, Ben Albritton, is from Polk County. He knows that the rural areas need help. So Rebecca Bays and I actually went up and had lunch with Anand Prasad in Tallahassee about 6 months ago, and he suggested we reach out to Senator Ed Hooper, state senator, which we did. We also had a phone call with Senator Nick DeSigle. He's the chair, approach chair for transportation and tourism and development, I believe. So what I said to the Senator DeSigle, who I know from my previous working with FDOT and former State Senator Jeff Brandes, I just said, Nick, you know, any money you can push our way would be greatly appreciated. Pinellas, Hillsborough, Pasco aren't really rural anymore. We still need $130 million to finish 41 up to State Road 200. As Jim mentioned, they are moving along quickly on this portion. As soon as they're done, they'll start the next portion. So those are just some of the things that what I've been trying to do with the MPO is just trying to figure out ways to direct more money into our region. For those of you folks in Hernando County, DOT has been gracious regarding County Line Road. They have actually funded for design of County Line Road for this current fiscal year. That's huge because DOT does not own or control that road. This is really a gift to us. And they have it slated to start construction in 2033 from the Suncoast Parkway to Mariner, widen it 4 lanes, what they call urban natural or something to that effect. I'm not an engineer. So that's a huge thank you to FDOT. Just they're actually going to fund about half of that construction, which again, they don't have to do, but I think it's in the tune of about 50 million, their half. Pasco and Hernando are going to need to come up with the money. So that's really a big deal because they've been talking about County Line Road for over 30 years, and we've really finally gotten movement on it over the past few years. You know, it's a shame, and I don't know if I mentioned this, but look, I'm not a tax and spend guy. My parents were small business owners, but it's a shame that 1 cent sales tax did not pass in Hernando County for roads because it would go a long way. When I started at FDOT, or when I started at the MPO, it was initially falling on deaf ears when I would talk to my board members about they have to have their own funding sources to build their own roads. The state's not going to come in and fix the locals' problems. Those days are pretty much over. The state doesn't have enough money to build out the roads they need to build out. But at least if you bring money to the table, the state might be interested in helping you out. So, you know, it's going to be back on the ballot in 2026. I think Citrus County is thinking about doing the same thing. And, you know, look, I don't want to pay more taxes, but if you go down to Pasco County and go to their outlet mall and go buy clothes and go to their restaurants, you're helping to pay for their roads, whether you know it or not, because they have the 1 cent sales tax. Well, I think 30% of the visitors in Hernando County are from out of the county, and Crystal River gets 1 million visitors a year. You know those people are spending money. They might as well help us build our roads. I've actually been on a couple of radio interviews with WWJB, and I told them I'd come on as frequently as possible, especially when it gets closer to election time and people understand why the necessity of a 1 cent sales tax to help. Citrus County doesn't even have enough money to resurface the roads they have. I mean, again, I'm on a soapbox, but I drive down Pleasant Grove every day going to Brooksville to work. It's a mess. The road's falling apart. And I look at it as it's an investment in your community. I'll give you another example. One of our local coordinating board members is wheelchair user to get around. And he and his wife were at their granddaughter's soccer game. His wife dropped to the ground, medical event. The EMTs profusely apologized for how long it took there because of the congestion on the road. And those are things that we need to look at. People have medical events on a regular basis, especially with an elderly population. The EMTs can't get to you in time. You may not survive. She survived, spent a few days in the hospital. Last I heard, she's doing okay. But those are just things we need to think about. You know, do I want to tax myself an extra 1 cent? Not really. But if it's going to get me better roads, reduce congestion, and maybe get me from point A to point B quicker, yeah, I'm happy to pay it. That's basically just it from my end. My goal here at the MPO is to try to bring in as much money as I can for our region, and those are, you know, things that we're trying to do. So that's it from my end.
Good. Thank you, Bob. Lori, would you like to do our presentation today on
Sure.
MPS? All right. Please start.
Everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So hello everyone, my name is Lori Paleo with JMT, and today I will be discussing the key differences between the mid-block pedestrian signal, also known as an MPS, and the pedestrian hybrid beacon, also known as a PHB. So both MPSs and PHBs serve the same purpose, but they have operational differences. They both enhance pedestrian safety at mid-block crossings by stopping traffic when activated, but each use different signal head configurations on the mast arm. So here is your pedestrian head beacon, and here is your mid-block pedestrian signal. There are existing MPSs in Pinellas County on 4th Street. FDOT District 7 is developing a PSA for these crossings. Here is the draft video of the MPS PSA.
The Florida Department of Transportation District 7 has installed mid-block pedestrian signals at 9 locations along US 92 or 4th Street as part of the median modification improvements from 30th Avenue North to 94th Avenue North in St. Petersburg. A mid-block pedestrian signal, or MPS, is a traffic control device that functions similarly to a regular traffic signal at a mid-block crossing location. It is intended to ensure the safety of all roadway users at pedestrian crossings. How to use the MPS properly. Pedestrians and bicyclists. To activate the pedestrian signal, press the button upon arriving at the intersection and wait to cross. Ensure that the walk signal is illuminated before stepping onto the crosswalk, and carefully look to see that all vehicles have come to a complete stop behind the designated stop line. As you cross, a countdown timer will display how much time remains for crossing. If you arrive while the countdown is already in progress, do not cross. Instead, press the button to start a new cycle and wait for the next walk signal. Drivers. Drivers should remain attentive to the traffic signal. A green light indicates that you may proceed as usual. If the signal turns red, stop completely at the stop bar. When the signal flashes, bring your vehicle to a full stop, look both ways, and proceed carefully only when the crossing is clear of pedestrians.
So it is important to note that MPSs are still under experimentation. Traffic Engineering Manual TEM 5.2.3 states that an MPS is a hybrid pedestrian actuated or bicyclist actuated traffic control device that alternately directs traffic to stop and flashes a red indication during the pedestrian clearance interval. This traffic control device is under FHWA's MUTCD request to experiment. So the FDOT has a request to experiment, and local agencies will need to get the request to experiment with the FHWA if they want to add an MPS to their roads. So here's an example of a pedestrian hybrid beacon. This video is a PSA by Alert Today, Alive Tomorrow.
In Florida, we all expect to get to our destination safely, no matter how we travel. The Department of Transportation is striving to keep people who walk safe by adding pedestrian hybrid beacons in areas with high pedestrian traffic. At the crosswalk, press the button to activate the beacon. The beacon will turn yellow, then change to red, requiring drivers to stop. Once the pedestrian has safely crossed, the beacon will flash red, then go blank, alerting to drivers they may proceed. Alert Today, Alive Tomorrow.
So additional PHB criteria can be found in Traffic Engineering Manual 5.2, including pedestrian count information, context classification, etc. So what are the key differences between an MPS and a PHB? Your MPSs are on the left and your PHBs are on the right. So starting with signal type, MPSs have a standard red, yellow, green indication, whereas PHBs have a cluster signal head configuration with 2 red indications above a single yellow indication. For visibility, MPSs rest on green until activated by a pedestrian, and PHBs rest in the dark phase until activated by a pedestrian. For operations, MPSs, once activated, cycles through steady yellow, steady red, and a flashing red indication. Your flashing red indication is your pedestrian clearance interval, where you only proceed when no pedestrians are in the crosswalk. PHBs, once activated, cycle through a flashing yellow phase, a steady yellow phase, a steady red, and a wigwag red, which is also your pedestrian clearance interval to proceed with caution if clear. So here's a table summary of the things I just discussed. Both MPSs and PHBs reduce unnecessary stops by being only pedestrian activated, and both allow traffic to proceed on flashing red, which is your pedestrian clearance interval, once pedestrians are clear. So for state roads, if a corridor has an existing PHB, FDOT will add a new PHB for corridor uniformity to not cause confusion. But if not, they will consider installing a mid-block pedestrian signal. For local roads, local agencies need to fill out a request to experiment with the FHWA if they want to add an MPS to their roads. So here's the information to fill out a request to experiment for an MPS. You must send it electronically to the MUTCD official request at dot.gov. The MUTCD states that a successful experiment is one where the research results show that the public understands the new device or application. The device or application generally performs as intended, and the device not cause adverse conditions. The experimenter must evaluate conditions both before and after installation of the experimental device and describe the measures of effectiveness of the safety and operational benefits, such as better visibility or reduced congestion. So here's the information. How do MPSs and PHBs reduce crashes? So data was taken from an NCHRP research report 1030 called Safety at Mid-Block Pedestrian Signals in 2023. The report compared an NCHRP study with an Arizona DOT study. So the table shown are the crash reduction factors for the studies. So here it shows that MPSs for all crashes have a 34% crash reduction, whereas a PHB has a 25% crash reduction. Pedestrian crashes, they are the same for MPSs and PHBs, and for rear end crashes, MPSs show a 31% crash reduction and PHBs a 29% crash reduction. So in general, the crash reduction factors for the MPSs developed in the study are similar to the crash reduction factors identified for the PHB, but MPSs overall show a slightly better benefit. So in FDOT, there are 10 existing MPS locations and 3 planned MPS locations. I think there's been a few more that Brenton mentioned at the previous meeting. But existing locations are in green, and they are included along various locations on 4th Street and the Pinellas Bayway in District 7. And some planned locations in District 7 include Fowler Avenue at 14th Street, Fowler Avenue at Elmer Street, and Fowler Avenue at 52nd Street. And then there's around 20 existing MPS locations outside of District 7. So in this photo, you could see the existing MPS on 4th Street and 75th Avenue that was recently installed. So here are some resources available to you, including the MUTCD request to experiment for the local agencies, some PSA information, TRB guidance on MPSs, and that NCHRP report for the crash reduction factors. And that is everything I have. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Yeah, Lori, this is Jim. I had last month, George Edmondson talked about a traffic light, and so I'm gonna get my notes here. On US 1944 in Crystal River. I was wondering if he's going to put up this type of traffic light that's only activated with manual push button, or is it going to be an active traffic light? Normal. Did anybody have any information about that? I wish George was here.
I'm not sure. I think it may be a full signal rather than like a mid-block pedestrian crossing, but I can double check that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I know we had talked about that sometime in the past where the Crosstown Trail crosses US 19. And I think that's where he's going to put it. But it crosses mid-block. There's a traffic light on each side of that. And I just wonder if he's going to put that type of a beacon in there or how it's going to be worked out. I'm not sure the exact location he's planning on doing that. But yeah, I appreciate you.
Yeah, that might be a mid-block traffic signal. I'm not 100% sure. So mid-block traffic signals, they require a signal warrant study, kind of like a regular traffic signal. So the mid-block traffic signals, they're MUTCD warranted. So then you have to do like 8-hour, 4-hour, peak hour volume, stuff like that. Whereas your MPSs, they're warranted by the traffic engineering manual and is more based on your pedestrian volume criteria. So sometimes people mix up the two, like mid-block traffic signals and mid-block pedestrian signals.
Yeah. I know he talked about they're going to lower the speed limit to 40 miles an hour through that area. Get single stage crossing, 4-foot bike lanes, lane reduction, and so forth. I didn't know if he's going to put that type of signal system in, or if it's going to be our standard traffic signal. So maybe Eric, if you can check with George and just let us know if you would, please. Appreciate it. Thank you. I'm sure I'll be getting questions about that in the future. Thank you, Lori, for presentation. Appreciate that very much.
Yep.
Are there any other announcements or open forum situations that we have? All right. Hearing none, we can all go back to work. We'll adjourn the meeting, and the next meeting is going to be March the 12th. It'll also be a virtual meeting at 1:30, March the 12th. Mark your calendars, and appreciate all your input, everybody. It was great today. Thank you so much. Have a
Thank you.
great day and good weekend. Stay
Thanks,
safe.
y'all.
Thank you.
See you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.